Ladies, gentlemen, and hurrah of all ages, Season 7 has been going by ridiculously fast right from the get-go, probably the quickest progression of any season of Diablo 4 so far, from level 1 to proper endgame builds. And while it's not unusual for a lot of players to create alts, secondary characters, throughout the length of a season to give you a bit more variety and to experience a bit more of the available maybe flavor of the month builds that are strong right now, but may not necessarily be quite as strong next season. Or maybe you just want to see what another class feels like because you feel done with grinding on your main but still enjoy the gameplay loop of Season 7. Either way, alts are a common thing. I'd say probably even earlier this season than most because of the progression speed, so today let's talk about the most effective and efficient way to get your alts online, up to level 60 as quickly as possible, and past that, any specific tips that apply to secondary characters for gearing up as well. All that said, the first question is the fastest way to get up to level 60, and the easy answer if you have friends that are max level and are willing to help you out is to just get them to carry you through the highest level of pit that they can comfortably complete with you in the party. You'll just get XP passively, and this will get you straight up to 60 very quickly, though you will be a little bit undergeared when you get there. But if we're talking about fully solo methods, there's something that's actually quite effective, especially this season, and it's Whispers of the Dead caches. When you select a Whispers cache reward, it locks its quality to the tier that it was received on as far as difficulty. So if you have a character doing Torment 4 content comfortably, you can just collect a bunch of Grim Favors on Torment 4, get your Whispers of the Dead caches on Torment 4, stick them in your stash, and then open them up on your brand new fresh character to actually use them. If you want to use technicalities, this can get you from level 1 to level 60 in literally moments if you just open all the caches back to back, as the only time you spend on that character is opening these containers themselves. But if you are looking for a more realistic number that includes the time spent on your main character too, it took me 27 Whispers of the Dead caches open total to get from level 1 to level 60 without killing a single monster on my rogue itself, which in total was around an hour and a half or so of farming on my main character personally, though I probably could have done it a bit faster and more efficiently. But I was also a Cataclysm Druid, which is an especially effective setup for just running around farming Whispers in the open world. However, for those who find that boring, you could always just manually level your new character on the character itself, going through Headhunts like you would have at the start of the season, or you could get boosted by another player like I mentioned earlier. Those are the options really for fast leveling right now, but this is the most effective way to boost a character solo on an account that already has a powerful character on it. That said, to be a bit more specific about the method, as while this concept did actually exist last season, it has improved dramatically in Season 7, and this is mostly because of the Headhunt subzone takeover seasonal activity. This is basically just a whole activity designed around Whispers of the Dead, and so it's never been easier to just pile in Whispers caches to your stash to then transfer over to your new character. The general method that I used for expedient Grim Favor collection was to go to the Headhunt zone that had the lowest timer remaining, as long as it was longer than like 8 minutes or so just to be safe, and then focus on clearing out any 3 Grim Favor objectives to spawn in roots, hoping that one of these would then spawn a cocoon, or if a cocoon is unearthed by someone else in the zone, you want to go to theirs, because the most favors you can get in a quick burst during Headhunt is the boss kill itself that spawns from the cocoon, and you can do this Whisper once per zone per timer. If you do the boss and then just a relatively time efficient couple of 3 favors objectives, you can easily get a full Whisper hand in just a few minutes in each of the active Headhunt zones, and you can rotate between these just doing it pretty consistently. If you end up going too fast, you might run out of the boss objectives, but then you can still just farm the 3 favor activities anyways to keep up your Whisper completion speed, and as well, you'll get a bunch of like Restless Rot. It's just a bonus of doing this too. Select your cache on hand in then, and knowing you'll be sending it to a new character, I would recommend thinking about the slots that character will need equipment in ahead of time. For example, I knew that long term I wanted to work towards a rain of arrows build on my rogue, so as much as possible I chose these slots for the Whispers caches that weren't going to be taken by uniques in that setup, as unique items are relatively easy to farm from lair bosses, whereas getting some good legendaries for your other slots takes a lot more effort usually, so I recommend focusing on gear dropping caches, especially ancestral ones if offered, but focusing on the slots that won't be taken up by uniques in the build that you are aiming to use. Because of how Whispers caches work as well, even if you open this on a level 1 character, it will give you endgame item level equipment that is specific to the class that you open the actual cache on, which is the absolute best result for what we're doing here, as it lets you not only level the alt extremely fast, but also get in a good pile of gear to sort through and choose from before diving right into the endgame as well. That's the main method then, but there's some other things worth touching on as well. One example is a sort of a one-time thing, which is the Season Journey. A Season Journey is shared across your account, and the main thing that this offers here for alts is that you can complete something like Chapter 6 or 7 of the season journey's actual objectives on your main character, which will then offer you a bunch of boxes full of goodies as rewards, and instead of handing them in on your main character, then instead open it up and accept them on your alt character so that the gear will convert to being relevant for that class instead. This, combined with the Whispers of the Dead caches themselves, also gave me the vast majority of the tempering manuals for Rogue right out of the gate as well as I opened these up, as I had very little farming that I had to do to be in a position where I could put together a functional endgame build. Literally the first monster I killed on my Rogue this season was in the tier 20 pit to unlock Torment 1, for a clearer picture of just how effective this is as a whole. That said, part of the reason for that is witch power progress. The seasonal power-ups are all synced across your account as well. So the moment that I created my level 1 Rogue, I was able to just set up some level 20 witch powers in the slots, stick in some lost powers that I found on my main, get a fully upgraded unique power in there too, which gives you a decent amount of bonus power right from the start and saves a good deal of farming time too. That said, while witch powers are synced across your account, the seasonal quest line is not, which is actually mostly a good thing because it means you can get a bunch of the rewards from the reputation track a second time, even if you don't interact with the storyline on your new character. It's also worth noting that, like season journey caches, you can send the reputation reward containers over to your alt from your main character to open them there too. Aside from that, there are two main things that I do want to call out as well. The first being Occult Gems, and that while it may be obvious to some, it's worth mentioning that you can unsocket these on your main, stick them in the stash, and then use them on your alt if there is any crossover between the Occult Gems that you want between your characters at least. Occult Gems take about as much effort to farm as any of the rarest stuff the season does, especially the legendary Occult Gems, and I have just finished my third gem, two of which were legendaries before I made my Rogue. The real beauty of this swap is that Cataclysm Druid, my main character, and Rain of Arrows Rogue, my goal for my second character, both use the exact same 3 ideal Occult Gems, and so I got a massive early power bump on my Rogue by just being able to slot this right in immediately as well, because even though I wasn't in the Rain of Arrows build right from the start, the defensive gains from the Occult Gems are fantastic, and it helped me actually get the gear that I needed to progress much faster as well. That said, this next thing I did so that you don't have to, if you're wondering what happens if you salvage an Occult Gem, maybe you decide you want to change characters completely and see how much that you can get back in exchange from the character you're not playing anymore, and, well, honestly, it's just not really worth it. Salvaging a blue rarity Occult Gem at least only gives back the 1000 Restless Rot, so you don't get that fugitive head back, and more importantly, you don't get the gem fragments back either, which is the largest cost by far of making these gems in general anyways, really, so I don't really recommend salvaging them unless you literally don't plan on ever using one again. I'm just saying. Aside from that, there are a couple of ways that are specific to a secondary character to gain power quickly too, specifically after you've hit 60 and you're trying to enter a proper endgame build, and both of them are simply using resources that you will likely already have an excess of on your main character. Specifically, Undercity Tributes is one, especially the Ancestral Unique dropping Tribute of Ascendance, as well this is mostly known for its decently high chance of dropping mythic uniques, which you might also want on a new character. It also drops a bunch of general uniques as well as ancestral uniques at the end of the run, which includes class-specific uniques that can be useful for getting your new character some of the required pieces to just enter the more powerful builds that are available in Season 7. The other option in a relatively similar vein is just using your lair boss summon materials from your main character and sending them over to your alt and then summoning them there, even if you have to do a few in Torment 3 as you're gaining power to begin with, because these are the most effective way to target farm uniques that you may be looking for to get into the build that you actually want to play. So if you have required uniques for your alt's build to function and boss summon materials on your main, just send them over and do some bosses there. And while Ancestrals might take a few kills to actually have happen, you should get at least 750 item level versions extremely quickly. Overall, it's just never been easier to have multiple characters running competent endgame builds in Diablo 4. It's never been faster to achieve it than it is now either, and if you're someone who likes the sound of multiple of the currently more popular builds, there's barely any hurdles to stopping you from at least getting into the endgame itself super quickly in Season 7 on any class. That just about does it for today then, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed this and that it helps you out in some way too. If you have any tips of your own related to this subject, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.